My name is Bolortsetseg Minjin. I'm a Mongolian paleontologist and founder and director of Institute for the Study of Mongolian Dinosaur. It's a nonprofit organization, and also I'm associated with the American Museum of Natural History. What really drew me to invertebrate paleontology was working in the field, and like my first experience finding like fossil mammals was really the impression that I really want to know and learn about those animals lived millions of years ago. Mm-hmm. And at the same time, I didn't realize that in my country I had such a rich fossil history. Mm-hmm. And so that was my first, interest, really drew to go into vertebrate paleontology. So that's basically around my, when I was doing kind of like end of my undergraduate and studying my master's. And at the time I was working on fossil corals from Ordovician time period. I had field experience, basically started with, in terms of vertebrate paleontology, with the American Museum of Natural History. So I've been 6 years with their museum expedition in the field in Mongolia. So we were focusing on looking for fossil mammals and dinosaurs from Cretaceous time period. Mm-hmm. So that was my first experience in the field. So of course we find all different kinds of, different species of mammals and dinosaurs. There's one that was a great experience was, I seemed like my eye is tuned to finding like small things. Small size things, and so I was really good at finding small, tiny mammal skulls and skeletons. So, so that was really drew me into to study more about it, and also, of course, I find some dinosaurs, and so I think for me it's more finding mammals that. Those important, especially later on, become part of my dissertation project. Mm-hmm. So that's, really gave me more depth knowledge. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so those mammals are called multituberculate. And so, through my work, I worked on Cryptobatar. It's a genus only found in Mongolia, and also there's another new species called Mangasbatter. It's, in terms of size, a little bigger. They superficially look like a rodent, but they're not related to rodent. It's an extinct group of mammal lived in Mongolia in Cretaceous, like about 90 million years ago.
So were you doing paleoecology, systematics?
So what I was doing in terms of research, so I was looking at the systematics and looking at the interrelationships among the groups within multituberculates. Specifically, I was focusing on postcrania. Mm-hmm. And most of, there are now, over 80 species of, multituberculate mammals been known. Most of them known by either, teeth or isolated bones. So Mongolia has, very good preservation. Mm-hmm. Even we have a complete skeleton. Mm-hmm. So that really gives a lot of information. In only few of those species of multituberculates been known by postcrania. Uh-huh. But then needed more detailed, studies. So I focused on that, and I created more data based on postcrania for my study. In terms of beginning of my career as a paleontologist, my father, he was a paleontologist, and he actually one of the first generation of Mongolian paleontologists trained in Russia. So he was my mentor and not only father. So he really opened the door to the field. And so I started with him working as an invertebrate paleontology, more focusing on biostratigraphy. So in terms of going to vertebrate paleontology, I mean, for me, I would say Jack Horner was really influenced me, thinking of in his background, how he came into the field is amazing. And he wasn't like typical, the way he come into the field. And at the same time, not only as a scientist and as a person, he had really, good advice and encouragement that he gave me in a time that I really needed. And specifically the time I was becoming more doing the advocacy work for, in terms of Mongolian fossils. So he was really led me to where I should go. Yeah. Challenges, being in the vertebrate paleontology, field. For me, I actually have two different worlds. I work in Mongolia, and then, of course, I live in the States. And for both cases, I'm practicing, of course, my field. But in terms of Mongolia, it's been quite challenging because the field where they are at is different from U.S. There are a lot of things needs to be improved. And so it makes it more challenging to practice my profession in the country because the system is different. It used to be in socialist country, so we have this kind of Soviet kind of, science practicing. And we still have that remnants of those, kind of practicing still exist. Means that really centrally controlled. So that is really challenging because science can move forward and challenged by many different opinions. And so I think that part of practicing in Mongolia is really challenging and hard because we have only one institution that is practicing on vertebrate paleontology. And so that really not opening room and opportunity for who coming in new into the field to bring in new idea and new challenges, new change. They're very hard to break through it. So that is the hardest challenge for me, especially, to work with. I mean, I really didn't work with that institution. Instead, I actually started a nonprofit organization because I knew if I go back to work that institution, I can't do what I've been doing. And I couldn't be successful in terms of, making the situation better in Mongolia. So, and of course, then back here in the States, like paleontology is really moving forward. And a lot of competitions and a lot of different institutions are working. So, and of course, for me, I started, right after I finished, I did postdoc with Dr. Jack Horner, and then I continued on to becoming assistant professor. I was going on the way what typically if you were entering to academics, but it was really hard for me to do that, to thinking of how things happening in Mongolia because my research is focused on Mongolian materials. So. But then getting enough support here in the U.S. was it's quite challenging, especially from a paleontology community here, especially from scientists who are working in Mongolia. So I felt like I'm kind of squished between two of these places, and so there's challenges comes from two, in terms of like the issues and challenges I'm talking about practicing paleontology, like most importantly, ethically. And like I said, there's only one institution. So it means that when foreign scientists come to Mongolia, they compete to get to work with that institution.
I see.
And the competition actually brings a lot of problems. So, so what is the solution is we need multiple institutions in Mongolia. We need to, so that's the thing I'm working on right now, talking with the government. We need to change the policy. We need to change how we practice paleontology. We need to be on the same level how other countries are practicing in paleontology. If we keep going with current situation, eventually we'll collapse. Why I say that is because we don't have next generation coming through. And if we don't have a next generation, how these foreign scientists to work in Mongolia? I mean, that's the serious issue. And so that means what is responsibilities of those scientists who come into work in Mongolia? They're aware of this situation. They know how corrupt it is. There is corruption in even paleontology. In Mongolia, instead of they fitting into it, they should be in a position to change.
Right.
But
I understand.
all these 20 years, been over 20, almost getting to 30 years, and what has changed? Actually worse. Because I graduated here, happened to be graduated is the first Mongolian got the Western education when, going back to my country. So it's been quite challenging. Yes, it's so what I've been focusing, last 10 years, is repatriation of Mongolian fossils. So there's issues, especially SVP community, very much aware of. Not only SVP, also public aware that there's illegal collecting of fossils. Because of so much of fossils from Mongolia got attention in media, and it bringing also negative effect in the country. So I'm fighting and trying to reduce that issue and problem. And the second thing is education. The public in Mongolia, we have 100 years of history of discovering vertebrate paleontology. I mean, in terms of vertebrate paleontology, we had discoveries started from 1920s when American Museum, Natural History Museum went to Mongolia. People even now don't know about that discovery.
Really? Wow.
They don't know about even current discoveries. This is how sad is that country is in terms of education.
Well, they don't know their natural resources, yeah.
Yeah, so public awareness is really important in terms of in my country. So that's the work I've been very aggressively going after, that all this public really need to know. And if I can give them the knowledge and tool, they know how to protect, preserve the fossil, and naturally there will be next generation of paleontologists will come through. And so in that direction of training next generation of paleontologists, with this nonprofit organization, I created master's tuition award and able to get 6 students. And then also currently I'm working with high school students. So I think the thing is, most challenging things is because we don't have a good infrastructure, and also when they graduate, where they're going to work on the same back. So now back again to the same institution. So it's getting into cycle like this is not going to, in all the efforts I put, basically been wasted. So that's why my most current project is focusing to build a museum in Mongolia. So basically in terms of standard and practicing of paleontology will be no difference from how American institutes are doing. And it will be a good repository. As you know, most of our vertebrate fossils are outside of the country. because we don't have a good repositories.
Right.
And so because of that, even, I train students, they have to travel around the world. But then that's cost money. Where should I find that money? Even government doesn't have any grants and funding enough to do that. So we have to have a source of information and things for those students. So this museum will have a repository that we will collect ourselves and prepare. And all through that process, students involved, even community will involve. So citizen science is really needed in Mongolia. In terms of to have, to get a funding for this new museum project, so now we're in a stage that working with local officials, local community, so we're gathering some information, what they want. We have to listen to the community. It's not, I'm a specialist, I know. So what I'm doing is giving the tools, knowledge, and then ask back, what do you want? So, so we're in the stage of like preparing, and so we have initial architect in design. So we're working with architect firm in Philadelphia. So, so it's still early stage, but we need to have the plan that to show the funders. Before even we have all the proposal and things haven't been come out, people are already interested. They want to give some money, even small amount, because they think this is a worth of project, and we will make it to happen because we have a history that we've been doing all good projects in Mongolia and making things to happen, and even we made change. Yeah, so it's slow, but it's visible change, and people can see. It's a many years of projects, so this is, it's going on many layers of issues and many layers of solution and things to find. So that's why I go in all different directions. So education and ethical issues, advocacy, working with politicians and policymakers. Multiple yeah. And then it actually supposed to merge in one point. That's the idea.
Well, that's the challenge.
Yes. So, so because I just had, Tuesday I gave a talk in the ethics in paleontology. So I talked about how that Tarbosaurus Pitar auction really happened. People think it's just happened overnight, just Mongolian government happened to react to it. It's not. And also SVP has some responsibilities.
Yes.
What I mean is there's many different, the members.
Right.
Members, a lot of even known paleontologists work in Mongolia, but they have some unethical issues and things. It's actually sold on the auction house. It's open, public auction house.
Big, huge.
It's starting from $850,000. Bidding started, and well, this is not a first case. This is things going on since like early 90s and got worse from black market going to open auctioning and eBay. And then Mongolia is heavily affected.
Yeah.
So now I'm working with Homeland Security, U.S. Attorney Office, and Mongolian President's Office. So next spring we have our next repatriation. It's going to happen. There's 6 dinosaurs, one of them owned by Nicolas Cage. So
you know what that means. Repatriation means the material was taken out of Mongolia, and now it's going to go back.
Yeah, where it belongs
but you've got
to.
a private, this fancy-dancy actor that has a lot of money,
Yeah.
and that actually has a valuable specimen, probably bought at an auction house.
Oh yeah, Leonardo DiCaprio and Nicolas Cage, they were bidding on it. And then Nicolas Cage got it. But Leonardo DiCaprio also got Mongolian dinosaur skull too. Yeah. So
you're going to be able to get them back, though.
well, Nicolas Cage he legally gave up ownership.
Oh.
So now it's seized with.
He should influence.
Well, yes, if he's willing to,
Yeah.
we're open.
Yeah.
do you want a positive face or you want to be
Right.
on side with the bad guys?
Yeah,
Like on a movie.
yeah.
You know, he's been on many movies, you know. So, yes, I mean, that's really kind of complicated
Yeah.
things going on. But what I'm saying is, it's been going on many years, and so my advocacy for this started 2006, trying to get the politician on board. And I was reaching out different parliament members, talking with politicians, and bringing the awareness that, hey, we're losing our dinosaurs.
Yeah.
Yeah, people stealing out. Look, these auction houses.
Well, they're
They
lucky
steal
to
'em.
have you advocating for them.
Well, someone
You gotta
has to
stay in
speak.
it.
Yes, somebody has to speak and
I
let them
know.
know, because they
But
haven't known.
It puts you in a hard position. Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
But you know, 2 weeks ago, I saw Prime Minister of Mongolia. He came to UN meeting, where all these international meetings happen. And I talked about this dinosaur issue and dinosaurs, and he is like, wow, I'm first time meeting paleontologists from my country. And then I never had conversation about dinosaurs before. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, this is,
Yeah.
I wouldn't blame, you know, I'm not blaming them. They didn't have opportunity, sources, because fossils are collected scientifically in Mongolia. They've been taken out of the country.
Yeah.
They're all in different institutions' collections.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then knowledge left. And people in the country didn't even learn the discovery. And they even would say, oh, we thought dinosaurs are made for a movie. We didn't know it really existed.
Ah, God.
Well,
Yeah.
this is happening now.
Yeah.
And so this is the kind of things I've been facing.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
Yeah.
You just have to start at the very beginning.
Yeah, but then what I'm saying, I live in two different worlds. When I come back in New York, I don't have to say anything. Kids even tell me and even say the name of Mongolian dinosaurs, point to Mongolia on the map. You know, I don't have to put too much effort.
Right.
They have so many sources. But in Mongolia,
Right. It's just,
I have to create the sources, you know, activities, and talk to them, show to them. So, I mean, it's like level of things. You have to start everything from scratch, starting from question of what is it? Paleontology. Who's paleontologist?
yeah.
They don't even know the word
It's gotta be
paleontology.
incredibly challenging. Well, thank you for your work.
Oh.
Keep doing it. You got to keep
Well,
doing
I think some point, you know, it's hard because of all challenges.
Yeah.
You feel like you want to give up.
it. But you
Yeah.
don't give up.
Well, I think if I get enough support,
Yeah, exactly.
then, you know, that really keeps me to move forward.
Yeah, and you
Otherwise,
keep telling your story and explaining what you're going through, then you get more people involved in it. It becomes
Yeah.
easier. All right.